My dear beloved, on this blessed Thursday morning, I invite you to lift your spirit, steady your breath, and open your heart to the one who has never abandoned you. Today is not just another day. No, today is a doorway into release, renewal, and divine freedom. For too long, some of you have been walking with weights you never chose to carry. For too long, you have felt the sting of setbacks, the echo of closed doors, the shadow of invisible walls rising in front of you. But hear me now. You are not cursed. You are covered. You are not blocked. You are being prepared. And today, by the might of God, we declare that every chain seen and unseen shall break. The prayer, Heavenly Father, we stand before you today, humbled yet hopeful, weary yet willing, tired yet trusting. We ask you to stretch forth your mighty hand and shine your holy light upon every dark corner of our lives. Break every curse that has spoken against your children. Break every generational burden that has lingered too long. Break every spiritual blockage that has tried to mute their voice, steal their joy, or cripple their purpose. Lord, let your power move like a sweeping wind, clearing every path, lifting every heart, and burning away every force that seeks to hold your children captive. Where there has been confusion, give clarity. Where there has been delay, release acceleration. Where there has been fear, plant courage deep in the soil of the soul. God, let this Thursday be the day your people walk into freedom. Not a shaky freedom, not a borrowed freedom, but a freedom anchored in you. A freedom that no man, no system, no spirit, no circumstance can ever take away. We declare that blessings will rise like the morning sun. We declare that goodness will follow them like a faithful friend. We declare that breakthroughs will chase them down and overtake them. And Father, remind them that they are not alone, that your love sings over them, your grace walks beside them, and your strength lifts them higher than their past. In the mighty, unshakable, all-restoring name of Jesus, Amen. My dear one, when we speak of God breaking every curse and every blockage, we are speaking of a power older than the stars, wiser than the winds, and more faithful than the rising sun. We are speaking of a strength that wraps itself around the weary, the wounded, and the waiting, with a tenderness that no earthly hand can imitate. We are speaking of the Almighty's promise to lift you, shield you, and free you, even when your own legs tremble beneath you. There are moments in our lives when the soul grows tired, not because it has failed, but because it has fought for far too long without rest. There are days when the heart whispers that something unseen is holding you back, as if invisible chains have quietly fastened themselves around your hope. You may not always be able to name the weight, but you feel it. You feel it when you try to rise and life pushes back just a little harder. You feel it when you try to move forward, and obstacles gather like clouds just ahead of you. And yet, even in that heaviness, even in that fog, God stands ready, hands open, arms wide, declaring that no curse spoken, written, inherited, or imagined can overpower His will for your life. For you see, curses are nothing more than shadows, and shadows can only thrive where light has not yet been welcomed. Blockages are nothing more than walls, and walls can only intimidate a person who forgets the height of the God who walks beside them. You may have felt the sting of generational patterns, the echo of words someone carelessly hurled at you years ago, or the residue of decisions that still cling to your spirit. But hear me clearly, none of these are stronger than God's ability to overturn, uplift, and restore. God is not intimidated by your past, my friend. He is not surprised by the stumbling nor ashamed of the wound. He is not threatened by the curses that were whispered in secret, nor by the blockages that rose without your permission. Where others see limitation, God sees liberation waiting to unfold. Where others see brokenness, God sees a blueprint for beauty. Where others see curse, God sees the perfect canvas to paint His grace. And so, when we ask God to break every curse, we are not pleading from a place of uncertainty. We are standing upon the unshakable truth that our Creator specializes in breaking chains. The chains of fear, the chains of shame, the chains of bitterness and regret, the chains of spiritual attacks that came through doors you didn't even know were open. The chains of words that slice through your confidence like a cold blade. The chains of experiences that wrap themselves around your mind until you questioned your worth. Yes, God breaks every one of them. But He does not simply break them for you to stand still. No, He breaks them for you to rise, stronger, wiser, more aware of who you are and whose you are. He breaks them to remind you that curses may attempt to cling like vines, but His hands cut deeper. Blockages may try to stand tall like mountains, but His breath moves stronger. The enemy may attempt to weave lies into the fabric of your days, but God's truth travels faster, shining brighter, stretching wider across your life. There will be moments when you look back and wonder, how did I make it through that storm? How did I survive that season? How did I walk away from that pain still whole? You made it because God was breaking curses you didn't even know existed. You survived because God was clearing blockages in places you didn't have access to. You moved forward because the divine hand was working behind the curtain, rearranging everything that tried to rise against you. And let me remind you of something else. People may try to curse you, but they did not create you. They may try to speak downfall into your path, but they cannot rewrite the destiny God has carved into your soul. They may attempt to cloud your name with gossip, jealousy, or malice, but God wipes every stain with a kindness that leaves no scar. Every attempt to block you becomes an opportunity for God to bless you. Every road that closed becomes a testimony of the one He opened. Every burden becomes a stepping stone. Every curse becomes a lesson turned into strength. Every hindrance becomes the soil in which your resilience grows. Child of God, curses cannot cling to a heart God has claimed. Blockages cannot stand before a spirit God has awakened. Darkness cannot linger where God has commanded light to enter. And no chain, no matter how ancient, how heavy, how tightly wrapped, can remain intact when God stretches forth His hand. So walk with the knowing that you are protected. Move with the certainty that you are covered. Live with the assurance that freedom is your inheritance and curses lose their power the moment you step into God's presence. You are not at the mercy of life's shadows. You are held by the one who commands the dawn. Believe this deeply, speak it boldly, and carry it with you. Every curse is broken. Every blockage is removed. Every chain has fallen. Not by your strength, but by the unfailing, unstoppable, undeniable power of God. Beloved, there comes a day in every life when the ordinary hours soften, when the morning air seems to hum with a promise that stretches beyond the boundaries of time. Today, this Thursday, is such a day, not because of the place you stand or the things you see, but because of what God is ready to release into your life. There is something holy in the quiet of this moment, something brave in the whisper of your breath, something sacred in the stirring beneath your ribs. Today is not simply another stop on the journey. It is a doorway carved by God's own hands, beckoning you into freedom, clarity, and purpose. You may have woken up feeling the same weight you have carried for weeks or months or years, but God is not limited by what you feel. The heavens do not bow to your fears. The divine plan does not tremble at the sight of your burdens. No, my dear one, God uses even those burdens as building blocks for breakthrough. And on this Thursday, He invites you to step into a freedom that does not wobble, a renewal that does not expire, a peace that does not need permission to stay. This day is a gift wrapped in God's intention for you, a day when heaven leans closer, a day when unseen chains loosen themselves because your spirit has dared to rise. A day when blessings long delayed and deeply prayed for begin to move with new urgency. You might think of Thursday as a simple day tucked between the rush of the week and the hope of the weekend, but God sees it differently. God sees it as a bridge, a span between who you were yesterday and who you are becoming. And you, beloved, are becoming something extraordinary. There have been days when you felt stuck, standing in the same place, surrounded by the same worries, breathing in the same disappointments. There have been mornings when you looked at yourself in the mirror and wondered if anything was changing at all. But I tell you this, today is not a repetition. Today is a revelation, a turning point, a sacred pivot in your story. God has a way of disguising breakthrough inside what appears to be routine. He hides miracles inside mornings that look plain. He tucks freedom into days we nearly overlook, and then just when we least expect it, he whispers to the spirit, "Step forward, the way is open." This Thursday, that whisper is for you. There comes a time when God says, "Enough, enough of the heaviness, enough of the delay, enough of living as though you are still bound by the things I have already broken, enough of believing that your past has a power it does not possess, enough of shrinking to fit into spaces that were never meant to contain you." Today is such a time. Perhaps you have been walking with the quiet suspicion that something greater is reaching for you. Perhaps you have sensed an unfamiliar courage rising in small, steady waves. Perhaps a part of you, the part that remembers your true identity, has begun to stir. That stirring is divine. That stirring is God calling you out of old patterns, old fears, old shadows. He is inviting you through the doorway of this day into a space where you can breathe without apology, hope without hesitation, and rise without fear. Freedom is not always loud. Sometimes it slips in gently, tapping at your heart before you even realize the locks have begun to turn. Sometimes it arrives as a soft reminder that the chains you feared were permanent have been loosening for longer than you knew. Sometimes it stands quietly at the threshold of your day, waiting for you to take the first brave step. And that is what today is asking of you, a step, not a leap, not a sprint, not a whirlwind of movement, just a step into faith, a step into clarity, a step into the new season God has been preparing behind the scenes. There are places God wants to take you where heaviness cannot follow. Doors he has opened that fear cannot walk through. Blessings he has positioned that anxiety cannot hold. And so with each breath you take on this Thursday, the old things fall a little more silent and the new things rise a little more boldly. Some people will not understand how your life begins to shift so suddenly. They will not see the quiet battles you fought, the tears you swallowed, the prayers you whispered late into the night. But God saw it all, and today he honors it. Today he turns the page on your behalf. Today he affirms in the spirit what you have long hoped for in the heart, that freedom is not a distant dream, it is your inheritance. There is a grace moving through this day that cannot be denied. A grace that lifts you by the chin and says, "Look forward." A grace that presses peace into your palms. A grace that steadies your trembling places and strengthens your weary corners. A grace that tells you with all the authority of heaven that you were never meant to live confined. So breathe deeply. Stand gently. Walk boldly. Know that this Thursday has been touched by God's intention. Know that nothing blocking you can stand in the presence of the one who created you. Know that nothing cursing you can survive the blessing that covers you. Today is a threshold. Today is a release. Today is a turning of the tide. Today is your invitation to freedom, real, spiritual, unshakable freedom. And all you need to do is step through the doorway God has already opened. My dear heart, let me speak to you tenderly, clearly, and with the authority of truth. You are not cursed, no matter what life has whispered at you, no matter what others have spoken over you, no matter what your past has tried to convince you of. You are covered by grace, wrapped in mercy, held by the everlasting arms of a God who does not abandon, does not forget, and does not lose track of his own. There is a quiet tragedy in the way many carry guilt and shame like old coats, heavy and frayed, believing they must wear them forever. Some of us hold on to the echo of mistakes, the memory of betrayals, the sting of failures, as though they are chains that must rattle behind us wherever we go. But hear me, beloved. God never asked you to drag those burdens. It is not his will for you to believe that every setback is a curse, or that every hardship is a punishment. Life has its storms, yes. But storms are not curses, they are the churning winds that prepare the sky for sunrise. There will always be voices internal and external that try to convince you that you are marked by misfortune, that you are tied to struggle, that goodness is always one step beyond your reach. But those voices do not speak with God's tongue. They do not carry his authority. They do not reflect his vision of you. What you call a curse, God calls a chapter. What you call blockage, God calls redirection. What you call the end, God calls the middle. You are not a victim of spiritual misfortune. You are a vessel of divine possibility. Sometimes the weight you feel is not a curse at all. It is simply the residue of long battles fought in silence. It is the bruising left behind after wrestling with life's disappointments. It is the fatigue of trying to be strong in seasons that wanted to break you. But bruises fade, beloved. Wounds heal, and fatigue lifts when God breathes strength into your weary places. A curse binds, but God frees. A curse closes in, but God expands. A curse diminishes, but God restores. Oh, if you only knew the way heaven has been covering you, how many dangers you never even saw because God blocked them before they reached you. How many words spoken against you dissolved before they could touch your spirit. How many traps were set in darkness that never ensnared you because God lit the path beneath your feet. You walk with a protection greater than your understanding. You breathe beneath a covering deeper than the ocean's roots. You rest in the shadow of a God who calls you his own. There have been moments, quiet, almost invisible, when the enemy planned your downfall, but God intervened with a whisper. Moments when the sorrow that tried to claim you found itself drowned beneath the flood of God's compassion. Moments when the disappointment meant to break you instead became the doorway through which you discovered your own resilience. This is not what it looks like to be cursed. This is what it looks like to be carried. You are covered because God has assigned purpose to your life, and purpose does not bow to curses. Purpose does not crumble under the weight of circumstance. Purpose does not retreat when opposition rises. Oh, it may bend you, it may stretch you, it may demand more strength than you knew you had, but it will never let you go. Purpose is persistent, it chases you, clings to you, holds you upright when you can barely stand on your own. And what God has purposed cannot be undone by human hands, earthly setbacks, or spiritual interference. The world may try to reduce you to your lowest moment. People may attempt to chain you to your past. Circumstances may stack themselves like towering walls around your dreams. But God looks at you and sees beyond all of that. He sees the light He placed inside you. He sees the path He carved for you before your first breath. He sees the strength you have yet to realize, the victories you have yet to celebrate, the blessings lined up like soldiers waiting for your arrival. Every time you rise after falling, you prove you are covered. Every time you choose hope after heartbreak, you prove you are covered. Every time you pray through the silence, push through the fear, or open your eyes to another morning despite the weight of yesterday, you are living proof that God's covering is not fragile, not temporary, not dependent on your perfection. No curse can cling to what God has blessed. No blockage can stand where God has prepared the way. No darkness can settle when God has commanded light. You are not merely protected. You are preserved. You are not merely surviving. You are being shaped. You are not merely enduring. You are being elevated. So walk with the knowing that the things meant to destroy you have only strengthened your story. Move with the confidence that every battle you fought has built something sturdy inside you. Live with the truth that every fear you faced has sharpened your faith. You are not defined by what tried to break you. You are defined by the God who kept you. And when you look at your life, not just the victories, but the wounds, the delays, the detours, understand this: curses fall away, but God's covering remains. It remains through the cold nights. It remains through the long winters. It remains through the storms that shake your very core. You are not cursed, you are chosen. You are not blocked. You are becoming. You are not forgotten, you are favored. You are not defeated. You are developing. And with every breath, every step, every sunrise, you are moving deeper into the blessing God always intended for you. Beloved, when we speak of asking God for release, for clarity, for courage, and for strength, we are speaking of a prayer that rises from the deepest chambers of the human spirit. A prayer that is not whispered from a place of weakness, but from a place of honest yearning. A yearning to be free from what has clung too tightly, to see beyond the haze of confusion, to stand tall in the face of fear, and to walk forward with a steady soul. This is not a prayer of desperation. It is a prayer of awakening. For there are seasons in life when the weight on your shoulders is not visible to the world, but it presses on you with the firmness of stone. You smile, you move through the motions, you carry out your tasks, but inside something whispers, Lord, I need release. I need you to ease this tightness, loosen this burden, break this invisible hold. And God hears that whisper. He hears it before your lips form the words. He hears it even when your spirit groans in silence. Release does not always arrive in a moment. Sometimes it arrives like morning light, slowly, gently stretching its fingers across the sky of your soul. Sometimes release comes in a single instant, like a chain snapping in the night. But whether it comes swiftly or softly, God is doing the work. He is loosening the grips that fear and grief have tried to latch onto your heart. He is breaking the patterns that have followed you like persistent shadows. He is releasing you from burdens that were never meant to be yours. And then, after release, we ask for clarity. Clarity, the gift that brings peace to a restless mind. There are times when your vision is clouded, not because the path is wrong, but because your tears have blurred your sight. Times when confusion sits like fog around your thoughts, when every direction seems uncertain, when every decision feels heavy. But confusion is not your home, beloved. God does not leave his children wandering without guidance. Clarity is his lantern. Clarity is his gentle hand pointing the way. Clarity is his voice whispering, "This is the path. Walk here." But clarity requires something from you as well. It asks you to slow down, to quiet the noise, to sit still long enough for the divine whisper to reach you. For God does not shout over chaos. He waits for you to lean close enough to hear the truth. And, oh, what a gift it is when God clears the haze, when he straightens the crooked lines life has drawn around you, when he opens your eyes to see the opportunity hidden behind the obstacle, the lesson tucked inside the pain, the blessing folded gently into the waiting. Clarity is not merely understanding, it is confidence. It is the knowing that even if the road ahead curves, God has already walked it. But release and clarity alone are not enough. For even when the burden lifts and the vision sharpens, you still need courage. Courage to face the things you once ran from. Courage to speak when silence feels safer. Courage to stand in your truth when the world expects your shrinking. Courage to step into the unknown with trembling knees but steady faith. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to let fear be the final voice. And courage, my dear one, is not something you must manufacture from empty hands. God places courage inside you like a flame. Sometimes it flickers, sometimes it roars, but it never dies. Even in your weakest moments, there is a spark still burning, waiting for the breath of God to fan it into something fierce. You may think yourself fragile, but courage has lived in you longer than fear ever has. For courage is woven into the soul by the one who created it. And after courage comes strength, not the kind of strength that demands you lift the whole world at once, not the kind that insists you bear every burden alone. No. Divine strength is different. It is gentle endurance. It is peace in the middle of the storm. It is the quiet resolve that whispers, I will not break, not because I am powerful, but because I am held. Strength appears in ways small and sacred. In rising from your bed when sorrow tells you to remain still, in trying again after failure, in loving again after heartbreak, in forgiving when bitterness beckons, in believing when doubt is loud. Strength is not loud or boastful. Strength sits in the corner of your soul with calm certainty. And God offers this strength freely. He does not ask you to earn it, only to receive it. He pours strength into your bones when your own energy runs thin. He presses strength into your palms when life feels heavy. He whispers strength into your spirit when your voice trembles. And suddenly you find yourself standing in the very place you once feared, unbroken, unshaken, unmoved by the winds. This prayer for release, clarity, courage, and strength is the prayer of a soul ready to shed its old skin, a soul ready to breathe deeper, a soul ready to rise higher. It is the prayer of a heart willing to be transformed by God's touch. And let me tell you something truthfully and tenderly. God honors this prayer every time. He honors the one who seeks release from what binds, guidance for what confuses, bravery for what intimidates, and resilience for what challenges. God responds to the one who comes not with perfection but with openness. So speak your prayer, beloved. Speak it boldly. Speak it softly. Speak it even when tears blur your words. For God is near. He is listening. And He is already working in the deep places of your life. Release is coming. Clarity is unfolding. Courage is growing. Strength is rising. Beloved, there comes a moment in every life when a gentle but undeniable shift begins to unfold inside the soul. A moment when you feel something rising quietly, steadily, insistently, telling you, stand up, lift your head, step into the day with the knowledge of who you are. This is the moment when God begins to usher you into a new season. And with that shift comes an invitation to walk boldly, to speak with certainty, to move with authority, and to live with a confidence that is rooted not in your own strength, but in the one who crafted your destiny long before the world learned your name. Some mornings carry a weight that tries to convince you that you are not enough. They whisper that you are too scarred, too weary, too late in blooming. But hear me, beloved, God does not see you through the lens of your wounds. He sees you through the lens of your becoming. Every scar is a story. Every tear is a seed. Every stumble is a lesson shaping you for greater ground. You have not been walking through darkness for nothing. You have been traveling through the soil where strength grows. When God calls you into a new season, He does not ask you to tiptoe. He asks you to step forward with the quiet dignity of someone who knows they belong. He asks you to shake off the remnants of yesterday's doubt. He asks you to unlearn the language of fear and speak instead with the tongue of faith. He asks you to rise not because your life is perfect, but because He is present. Walking boldly does not mean you feel brave every minute. It means you move even when your knees tremble. It means you trust the path even when the horizon hides behind a veil of uncertainty. It means you choose to believe that God has already gone ahead of you, clearing debris, opening doors, and arranging divine appointments in places you have not yet stepped into. Oh, beloved, you are entering a season where timidity will not serve you, shrinking will not fit you, hiding will not honor what God has placed inside you. This is a time to stretch your back, straighten your shoulders, lift your chin, and let the world see the light that God has been refining within you. Speak with confidence, not arrogance, but assurance. Assurance that comes from knowing you survived storms that should have drowned you. Assurance that comes from realizing that every morning you rose was a miracle wearing ordinary clothes. Assurance that comes from remembering that God has never once failed to reach you, even when you were in the shadows of your own doubt. Let your voice carry the truth of your worth. Let it tremble if it must, but let it rise. Speak peace over your own life. Speak strength into your own bones. Speak hope into your own tomorrow. Speak blessing over every room you walk into. Speak possibility into the places that once tried to convince you that possibility was not meant for you. Living boldly means choosing joy even when sorrow still lingers in the corners. It means choosing gratitude even when some prayers remain unanswered. It means choosing faith even when the future stands behind a curtain you cannot pull back. And it means choosing to believe that the God who held you yesterday is the same God who guides you today and the same God who waits for you in tomorrow's dawn. You are not stepping into this new season alone. You are stepping into it with the full backing of heaven. Angels have walked with you through nights you thought would never end. Grace has carried you through chapters you did not think you would survive. Mercy has rewritten your story in places where you had nearly given up the pen. And now favor is calling your name, not softly, not timidly, but boldly. Let the world wonder how you stand so tall after all you have endured. Let them look in awe at the glow that sorrow could not extinguish. Let them observe how you walk with a stride that whispers, I know who holds my life. Let them see the evidence of God's covering in the confidence you carry. And when doubt tries to creep back in, when the old voices try to pull you back into the smallness you have outgrown, remember this: what God lifts cannot be lowered by fear. What God blesses cannot be undone by circumstances. What God prepares cannot be interrupted by opposition. You are walking into blessing with feet that have known pain but refuse to remain bound. You are walking into freedom with hands that have held sorrow but now reach for joy. You are walking into purpose with a heart that has been broken but still beats with divine intention. Every step you take is a declaration: I will not shrink, I will not fear, I will not turn back. I am moving forward because God has moved for me. Every breath you breathe is an affirmation: I am blessed, I am covered, I am guided, I am rising. Every moment you live is a testament: the God who kept me is the God who is now calling me higher. So walk boldly, beloved. Walk as someone who knows their worth. Walk as someone who has seen the valley and lived to climb the mountain. Walk as someone who has been touched by grace in the deepest places. Walk with the dignity, the poise, the strength, and the quiet fire that only God can place within a soul. For today, this very moment, you step not into fear but into freedom. Not into uncertainty but into divine purpose. Not into weakness, but into the radiant, unshakable blessing of a new season.